Hi, everyone. How many of you have had a transformative experience as a child? Something that changed your life, although maybe you didn't notice it at the time. Maybe you didn't realize this until much later. Well, I did, and in my case, it was a museum. For my entire life, I have thought of museums as places of wonder, places where magic happens, places full of cool things that can spark the imagination and creativity. I learned this as a child when I was visiting the old Charleston Museum in Charleston, South Carolina with my family. It was an amazing place housed in this huge, dark, cavernous hall and filled with all kinds of wonders. A giant right whale skeleton, huge cast of Egyptian sculpture, exotic bird eggs, and a real mummy. Now, this is the kind of thing that really affected me profoundly as a child, and I have no doubt this is one of the reasons that I work in a museum today. And not long afterward, as a young college student, I also had these wow experiences visiting the museum where I would later get a job. In 1980, I saw my first contemporary art exhibition using projections at the Telfair Academy, and not long after, an exhibition of artist-made holograms. And I love this old article touting the fact that the South's oldest art museum is showing holograms, of all things. And these two exhibitions really cemented this idea for me that art combined with technology could result in something truly magical, something that might seem almost impossible. And today I find myself in the position of trying to create that magic or instill that sense of wonder in audiences who are mostly much younger than myself through technology-based art. Now, my own background is in studio art, drawing and painting, and I love the experience of looking at a great work of art like this George Bellows painting from the Telfair's collection. Great works of art like this can transport us to another time and place, make us think, make us see the world differently. And although we have these incredible treasures in our collections, many museums today are trying to reinvent themselves, to create more opportunities for social interaction in the galleries, and to connect with people in ways that are related to the times that we live in. Case in point, at this museum, I organize an art and technology festival in which we show new media art that is interactive and encourages kind of social engagement in the gallery. But not only that, we also offer programs that are designed to empower people through technology, to encourage people to use technology as a creative tool. Now, a lot of museums have been a bit reticent to jump into digital art forms because of a couple of really important factors. One is that as museums, we're charged with taking care of art, and art is supposed to last a long time. But technology, as we know, is unstable, and it rapidly becomes obsolete. Software, hardware becomes obsolete, and digital art forms are very challenging to preserve. And despite this, I think that new media, interactive art, digital art forms are something that resonate with a lot of audiences today because we are so immersed in technology. It's part of our everyday lives, from our banking to our social activities. And with new media art, with digital art forms, not only has more magic, I think, entered the museum, but all kinds of new individual and social behaviors have entered the museum. So you might look at artworks like these that hang on the wall, something like a painting, but now you can manipulate that painting with your fingertips, as these folks are doing with Raphael Rosendahl's work, which you can see outside. Or you might be able to use your whole body, your body movements, to influence the movement of a giant video sculpture, as these middle school students are doing. Or you can play a game with your friends entirely through vibration and your sense of touch, something we couldn't have thought about, 10, 20 years ago, right? Or you can make art from your wheelchair. You can do a painting with your wheelchair. Or make a device that makes it possible for you to talk with trees. And some of these behaviors, frankly, are quite silly. I mean, I have to be prepared to look silly sometimes in this job. But I think silliness is a great thing. I think that a lot of great ideas started out as silly ideas, just fooling around, trying things out. And I think what we want to do is not just show entertaining and engaging art, as inspiring as it may be. We want to pull the curtain aside so that folks can not only see the artist who's back there operating the smoke and mirrors, we want to empower those folks to become makers and become creators, to learn what's going on there, and to think about becoming a wizard, becoming wizards themselves. So at the festival that we do, I think it's not only important to present really exciting artists and inventors like Onyx Ashanti shown here. We want to create opportunities for people to interact with these artists, these great innovators, to find out what they do, bring them together with students. And I'm not just talking about college students, but middle school students and high school students. And with those students, a really key component is hands-on learning. We want to instill this idea in those students that I can do this, that I can make this kind of magic happen. And so the students that you see, these are middle school students interacting with a conductive musical sculpture by artist Ross Fish, later learn from that artist how to make their own musical conductive sculptures with makey kits. And they're using, I don't know if you can see it there, bananas and Play-Doh as an interface, so you can play those as musical instruments. I think another way, too, that we've attempted to connect with young people is to show artists video games. This is something some other museums have done. How many of you guys play video games or have played video games? I think probably a significant number of you. I'm not going to ask how many of you think video games can be art. The Museum of Modern Art thinks so. I think that video games can be art in certain contexts. And one of the things we've done here is show artists video games. And I love this particular exhibition shown on screen because I could actually hear people cheering in the gallery from my office. I mean, how many times do you hear people cheering in an art museum? It doesn't happen all that often. I'd like to see it happen more often. But again, it's not enough simply to engage people. I mean, these games can be engaging, entertaining, even inspiring, but I think we want to go further than this. And so for that reason, we want to try to help make that shift from consumer to creator. And so it's been very important here that we offer opportunities for kids to learn video game design. And we've done this by offering game design classes and workshops out in the community where we hire local game designers to go out there and teach game design. And we brought these ideas back into our studios here at the museum and offered them on a regular basis in classes and summer camps like the video game design camp that you see here. And don't you just love that title for the game on the right? I mean, Just Quit. That's got to be my favorite video game title ever, and I just think that's a wonderful statement of bravado by this young game designer. This game is so good, you cannot beat it. So again, I think it's important for kids to connect with art in this way. And I don't think it's off base to start with the really, really young. And I'm talking about pre-K kids, because very often they're on devices. I mean, they're as embedded in technology as their parents are. So I think what we can do is, again, reinforce this I can do this idea in the very, very young. Whether it's simply learning how to attach a battery to an LED and just seeing the magic happen, or learning how to make a drawing robot, as these kids are doing at one of our family days. Or showing them great new creative technologies like a 3D printer. I mean, look at those expressions there. I mean, we really have their attention. They're totally rapt, looking at this. But it's not enough, I think, to just show them new gizmos. I mean, there are always new gizmos coming out, and they're great, and they really expand our creative possibilities. But I think we also have to think about our relationship with technology. What does that mean? What about that obsolescence that we were looking at earlier? What happens when these things are no longer functional or something new comes along? To engage audiences with this idea, I think it's really important to point out that old tech can still have all kinds of creative possibilities. And so for that reason, we've presented performances using old tech, outdated, obsolete tech, like old Nintendo Game Boys for performances. Or a sculpture made out of old electronic keyboards and a Victrola, and even older technology. Or a whole stage full of strange contraptions made out of old and odd tech. Can anybody tell what that instrument is in the lower left-hand corner? It's a Kenmore dryer. It's like my favorite musical instrument ever. It was right here on this stage. I mean, I just love the way that artists reuse old tech. I think that's really a really important idea. And so we take that again into a hands-on art-making context, into our studio where, again, you see these young girls making handbags out of old floppy disks in our Geek Bling camp. We're making, old computer keyboard keys into to necklaces. And this is really important because it connects these kids with the idea that these objects can still have use, that there's still creative potential in these things. It calls into question our consumption. And so I'd like to leave you with this thought. One, that the art museum is not just a place where art is shown and stored. It's a place where magic can happen, where wonder can be experienced and skills can be built. And secondly, I'd like to remind you that you don't have to be a professionally trained artist or computer scientist to make something really cool with technology. So why not come to the museum, do what these young wizards are doing, and make some magic yourself. Thank you.